Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, knowing which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate for them to read. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. If you're looking for a real review from a mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. So this week's book review is from the Storm Dragons series, and this is the first one, Lightning Born by Julie Kagawa. And this is a fantasy series that centers around a very imaginative world in which people inhabit floating islands above a destructive maelstrom. Special crystals keep the island afloat, but with the slow fading of the crystal's power, the use of mages and a rogue search for an old knight are the hope for saving the kingdom. So the story opens with characters switching back and forth between Remy and Jem before their stories ultimately align. So at the beginning, we're going to open with Remy. I just want to share a little bit of the opening of chapter 1 to just give you a little bit of the taste of the writing style. It was a risky jump. Not the type where if you missed or miscalculated, you might scrape your knee or knock a tooth loose. Not the type where a fumble could result in broken bones, a bloody nose, or even a minor concussion from landing on your stupid, why did you think you could do this head? No, this was a fall into an endless void filled with arcane lightning that will fry you to a crisp type of jump. This was a plummet straight into the maelstrom. Failed to stick the landing, and there was no ground to break your fall, your pride, or even your bones. There was nothing below to save you. Slip off the edge of the island, and you'll keep tumbling through a rolling, angry storm forever. Or until you were inevitably disintegrated by purple lightning. Obviously, most sane people stayed as far away from the edge as they could. But then, most sane people didn't steal from sky pirates either. There he is. Remy winced, glancing over his shoulder. The trio of pirates was stalking down the mud-filled plank passage between shanty huts, swords bare and glittering in the dim light. One of them spotted Remy and pointed a rusty curved blade in his direction. "Little rat thief," he bellowed, "swipe my purse, will you? I'll string you up by your toes and dangle you off the edge for the storm gulls to pick at. No thanks. That sounds painful." Desperately, Remy looked around, searching for another escape route. Rickety houses of wood and corrugated metal lined either side of the muddy road, leaning against or sitting on top of each other. Behind him, the path came to an abrupt and sudden end. At one point, before Remy was even born, there had been a fence between the road and the edge to keep the brave intoxicated or foolish from lurching past it into empty space. But time and apathy had reduced the barrier to a few rotten sticks lying in the weeds, so there was nothing between him, the open sky, and the maelstrom below. I'll stop right there, but that just gives you a little taste of the opening of the story, how well she does sort of engaging and jumping the reader right into action and trying to figure out what's taking place and the character Remy. So Remy is an orphan living on Cutthroat Wedge on the fringe of the kingdom. Remy spends his time thieving to stay alive, but as the story opens, he is returning Bart's money purse to him after it's been stolen by pirates. Bart is the local dragon lore storyteller in the local tavern. He drinks a lot, especially at the beginning. So not soon after the opening of the story, there is a magical storm that takes place in which a baby dragon falls into Remy's lap. He swears to take care of and protect the dragon despite an evil pirate mage who is offering a great reward for the dragon's return. Jem, meanwhile, is a princess of the kingdom with mage abilities. So being a mage is the ability to have and use magic. She does have her own dragon and a bit of a rebellious desire to help her kingdom despite her father's expectations. Her storyline opens with her attending her magic school, but she is soon called back to the palace due to the impending doom. After reading about the ancients, however, she is more determined to find them, hoping that they can help save the crystals and the islands from complete destruction. Their stories eventually do cross as Jem comes across a pirate ship called the Queen's Blade, which is run by Captain Cutlass, who is a woman. Captain Cutlass agrees to help Jem in her quest. When they visit Cutthroat Wedge, their paths cross with Remy, and the journey sort of continues as they all work together to save Bart and Storm, the baby dragon that Remy had that's taken by the pirate mage. Their tasks isn't easy, and it's extremely dangerous, with Captain Hieros seeking complete power to dominate the entire kingdom. If you go to my website at holdingsteadfastreaders.com, you're going to find more details about this book than are given in this video. Again, this is a fantasy novel, so you do have magic, mages, dragons. The maelstrom is magic, and it increases magic's energy and power. There's a few other details there just to make you aware of. So definitely, something for you to be aware of if you're trying to find a fantasy story for your readers that does not include magic. This would not be the series for them. The imaginative world that Julie creates is really quite engaging and very creative. So if you are looking for a clean fantasy series that has dragons, you're okay with some of the magical elements, then this might be worth a read. It is clean. It's a little slow at the beginning as the details for the series are all sort of set in place, but the action does quickly pick up, and Kagawa does a great job of maintaining the tension in the story throughout. So even as she's giving these details, she's keeping tension going. I did enjoy the first story, and I'll definitely finish the others in the series just so that parents, you can be informed. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I like to stay up with book series in particular, because that's an easy way that authors can sort of weave things in and parents aren't quite expecting, because the first one or two were clean and appropriate, and so all in good nature, you assume the rest are. But unfortunately, that is not always the case. That's not to say this isn't, but just to kind of make you aware that I'll kind of keep up with those. Again, magic is involved. We do have mages. They talk about controlling the wind and the storms. Primarily, there is a mention of like a ghost hand. So again, you're going to find more of those details at my full written review at holdingsteadfastreaders.com. I hope that this book review is helpful to you as parents as you're trying to figure out what is and is not appropriate for your children to read. And I hope that you'll join me next week for another book review.